everyone, welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us from all across the world. Thank you so much to all of the members, subscribers, viewers, and everyone tuning in for another live stream. If you're new to my live stream, these live streams are more in-depth analysis with open space for the community for participation, sharing your thoughts and asking me any questions as well. If you prefer shorter videos, I also post short videos regularly on a daily basis with updates, several minutes long, so you can go ahead to my video tab and check these out. However, if you prefer in-depth talk, we're here in this live stream and this is the right place for you. So welcome everyone again, and thank you so much for tuning in. Daniela, thank you so much for your super. What I want to talk to you about is the conversation that took place between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. Everyone is talking about the preparations, the United States sending destroyers now to help Israel. And I spoke about the Arab states that are reportedly going to help Israel intercept these attacks from Iran. We've seen that evidently. We've seen that happening in the previous attack in April when Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and other Arab states participated in helping Israel defend itself, right, from the Iranian attack. And now you have more reports about these things. However, some people are forgetting that Benjamin Netanyahu is putting the United States in a really tough position, and that even Joe Biden doesn't want that. Now, listen, the United States is preparing for elections, and whatever they're going to do when it comes to supporting Israel now, it's going to be out of their own pockets. It's going to be out of their own pockets. It's not coming from the foreign aid going to Israel, right? Even though the foreign aid is coming from the taxpayers' money. But there are many calculations. And the United States, we haven't seen anything to signal that they're looking for complete and total destruction, right? They are pushing all of the wrong buttons. I mean, again, that's arguable. I might be wrong here. But from the statements that we've seen from them, speaking with the Israelis, it looks like they try to de-escalate. However, it's as if they're stuck, It's as if they're stuck with their master with horns, Benjamin Netanyahu. Wherever he leads, they need to go. But we had a revelation, and funny enough, that was from Israel, actually, about a conversation that took place between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu, for those of you who are unaware, they haven't had good relations ever since the Obama administration. Firstly, Netanyahu had tensions with Obama and with Biden in his position as vice president at the time. He had a bad relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. He obviously declares that he's a Zionist and he supports Israel. We all know that they're all slaves. However, he had bad issues with Benjamin Netanyahu, and that continued now. Firstly, Israel escalated to levels that the United States did not want. The United States foreign policy is low heat, ongoing chaos, nothing that takes things out of control. They like things being managed. They're seeing things in Ukraine getting out of hand. They're unable to control what's happening. And in the Middle East, we've had a policy slowly, gradually getting away. The United States is getting away slowly but surely from the Middle East. And they don't want something to completely put the table all at once. So he had conversations with Benjamin Netanyahu previously, and he called him a son of a bee. There were leaks from certain conversations that took place. He was shouting at him before. Netanyahu put him in really awkward positions. All of his visits to the US and the Congress and all of that. But now we had another conversation. So we had a report it was in the Israeli newspaper, Ma'ariv actually, who revealed some of the details from this conversation that took place between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu. And that happened a couple of days ago. Okay, now, again, some people are speculating that the United States knew. Iran blamed the United States of knowing that Israel was about to attack Haniya. Could be the case. Could be that Israel did it on its own. Israel did a couple of things that were not in line with the United States. You know, the ceasefire, the invasion, the escalation, all of these things, you know, we've been speaking about them for a very long time. There are clearly differences. However, that conversation took place. Firstly, there was a report that Joe Biden said he was very concerned about the Middle East tensions on Thursday and urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a ceasefire, and saying, I'm very concerned about it. But this conversation that he had with him, we were talking about a shouting match. These reports are about a shouting match, and it's not the first shouting match. We've had shouting matches between Biden and Netanyahu. The title stated, the White House is frustrated, shouting conversation between Benjamin Netanyahu and Joe Biden. Here we go. That was in the Israeli newspaper Ma'arif. Okay? And they continued to discuss details about the conversation that they had between them. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke tonight between Thursday and Friday with US President Joe Biden. So that was last night, 2 nights ago, who again confirmed his commitment to Israel's security against all threats from Iran, including organizations operating under it, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. In the meantime, it was reported in Bloomberg that Biden pleaded with Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire in Gaza and expressed the great frustration felt in the White House and the White House in general. The conversation was described as very direct. And listen, when people say very direct and very frustrated, that only resembles a tiny, minority of what actually happened. So he was probably swearing at him, F you and that, and shouting, you know, Biden. And you know what happens in closed doors with these people. So the two discussed the efforts of the United States to support the defense of Israel against threats such as ballistic missiles and UAVs, and the renewed deployment of the United States military. Alongside this commitment, President Biden, who recently withdrew from the presidential race, emphasized the importance of efforts to prevent a widespread escalation in the region. The vice president and apparent replacement of the Democratic Party of Biden in the presidential elections, Kamala Harris, also joined the conversation. So Harris was in the conversation with them. After the conversation, Biden spoke to the American media and said that the killing of Haniya did not help the ceasefire talks. The killing of Haniya did not help the ceasefire talks. Listen, whether they're playing a game or not playing a game, he's making this statement. He made this statement, killing of Ismail. Don't help. Why? Because he's a negotiator. Of course, your position should be to condemn it because he's negotiating. And you're trying to reach ceasefire, and you have one side going and killing the other side. Why don't you condemn it? That's what you should do. Simple. After the conversation, after that night, the Iranian Fars news agency reported that Ismail Haniya was killed by a missile, and they continued all of the details about Iran. Okay. So he had this conversation with him. He told him off. He had a shouting match with him. And he also ordered him to what? To have a ceasefire within 1 to 2 weeks. He told Netanyahu, 1 to 2 weeks, you need to have a ceasefire. 1 to 2 weeks, you need to have a ceasefire. However, it doesn't look like Benjamin Netanyahu is listening. Benjamin Netanyahu is not interested. As a matter of fact, he came back from the United States, supposedly trying to sack Yoav Gallant, the defense minister who he tried to sack before, and we spoke about this so many times, and the IDF chief of staff Herzi Halevi, and the head of the Shin Bet, Shabak, Ronen Bar. He's trying to sack all of them. And I spoke about a couple of days ago in one of my videos about the latest meeting that he had with the top figures of the security establishment in Israel, where he was telling them all off. You're all weak, you're all complacent, smacking the table, shouting, and that's after the supposed victories, right, of assassinations in Lebanon and in Iran, and these, acting like they're winning. That was after that, and they're having these troubles between them. And now the country, it's like a ghost city. Some of the big cities in Israel, ghost cities. So the whole country is like a ghost country now. And they had problems with the airport, cyber attack on Ben Gurion, cyber attack on the Haifa airport. People are panicking. No one's in the streets. And Iran is teasing them, releasing images. Our missiles are coming. Oh, wait, And what are we having with the resistance, by the way? In Gaza, listen, 10 months in, they are escalating and are increasing their missile attacks on Israel alongside taking down Israeli soldiers in Gaza. Today we had 5 resistance movements in Gaza attacking Israel in and outside of Gaza. They're sniping RPGs on their tanks, taking everyone down, and launching missiles on the Netzarim line where Israel's based, and on Israel. Dozens of missiles. Well, what does that tell you? It's a massive failure. It's a joke. It's a joke. They're killing Haniya, the top figure, and they're killing Hezbollah. What are Hezbollah doing? I'm just talking about Gaza. Hezbollah, 50 missiles just 30 minutes ago. Just 30 minutes ago. That's apart from their 9 attacks that they had on Israel. 9 attacks that they had on Israel. And people are talking about the biggest exodus of Israelis in 70 years because of Hezbollah's attacks. Now, we need to bear in mind that it's a coordinated thing, but only what Hezbollah have done in 70 years. And that's not the response. That's supposed to be like the day-to-day stuff. That's supposed to be your daily reaction to your barbarism, because Israel's still committing barbarism. Today they targeted a hospital, killing dozens of people. A school where people are seeking shelter, and they shot the people again when they were running away from the bomb. That's in Gaza. In the West Bank, they're having airstrikes in the West Bank. One airstrike killed 9 people today in Tul Karim. So they're increasing everything. It's like they've gone completely mad. Netanyahu is acting exactly how insane dictators acted in history. How insane fascist dictators behaved previously in history. And, it's not far-fetched to compare him to Hitler. As a matter of fact, many of the things he committed are far worse than Hitler. But in terms of his single-minded, psychopathic, lunatic approach of everyone is wrong and I'm the only one who's right, undermining and patronizing all of the security establishment, everyone in Israel, everyone who opposes him, the families of the people who he supposedly went to war to protect and save, the prisoners who have been calling on Israel to have a ceasefire from day one. There are people in Israel, people need to remember, from day one, saying, what are you doing attacking Gaza when our people are there? Now, for anyone with a sound mind, you'd think, okay, if you only care about the lives of Israelis and you are completely careless about the lives of the Palestinians, you still wouldn't do that. Why? Because your people are there. And then evidence started coming out from the people who went through the 7th of October, survived, and met the resistance on the 7th of October, and spoke about their interactions with them and how they were surprised by how they interacted with them. The people who were killed and survived, the people who survived the 7th of October massacres, the people who were released after they were kidnapped to Gaza, saying that we were targeted all of the way, And Israel ended up killing a third of its prisoners in Gaza, 1/3, 50 in the first month. The Palestinian resistance declared in the first month that Israel had killed over 50. And they realized, and they warned Israel from at the time, they told them, we know what you're doing. You are trying to kill them so that we can lower the price for an exchange and a deal, but that wouldn't work. It was the Abu Ubaida who told them that, the spokesperson of the Al-Qassam brigades. He said that even if we have one, we will ask for the same price. But still Israel had the same approach. They've gone completely mad. So Netanyahu, although people had this assumption that he would use these recent assassinations and capitalize on them to finally reach a deal and tell the Israeli population, look, I killed one of the top advisor of Nasrallah, I killed Haniya, they're claiming, I killed MahmoodOD, again claim that hasn't been verified. The other two were verified by the movements, but the it wasn't declared, but they're saying it, probably to, give it more momentum, this victory tour. But he still doesn't want to end it. He still doesn't want to end it. Why? Because he came back from Rome adding more conditions and again facing criticism that we spoke about during the meeting that he had with the officials, telling him, Yoav Gallant was telling him, it doesn't look like you want a solution. The head of the Mossad is telling him, we have to accept it. We don't have time. And the head of the Shabak told him, all of the security establishments are telling him, we don't have time and we might lose the option. We might lose the deal. And Hamas might toughen their conditions after this. Everyone in Israel, and you're not talking about like anti-Zionist people, right? Who deals with the security establishment, we all know that. But even these people, who were once considered to be, at least some of them, figures that you cannot talk about or criticize, like the military establishment in Israel, it's like a sacred establishment. Or the head of the Mossad, you don't talk about, don't disagree too much. They have the information, they have this and that. He is putting all of that in the bin. And it's making many Israelis go mad who don't necessarily, oppose the idea of a war or mass murder or what have you. But they are led by a figure who will not listen to anyone and who has no one but himself in his head, and he has a plan and he's going to continue with this plan. No matter how delusional it is, no matter how much feedback he gets from the ground, no matter how much advice he gets from the people who are concerned with the matter that he's talking about, like the military chief or the head of the Mossad or the head of the Shabak, for example. And he is being arrogant with them, saying, you don't know how to deal with Hamas. I know how to deal with them. You're being too soft. Don't come and talk to me. Talk to Yahya Sinwar. Don't apply pressure on me. Gone mad. You don't have the experience that these people have in their fields, respectively. And again, disagree with them, agree with them, swear at them. That's not the point. But the point is the position they're in, the fact that you have people in their majority wanting a ceasefire, apart from Benjamin Netanyahu and co, meaning Ben Gvir, Smotrich, the rape apologists, people who are defending rape as a method of torture against detainees, and even discussing it religiously. That's who the state is run by. And Benjamin Netanyahu is continuing down the same path. Now he's increasing the security, unprecedented levels. His personal security, the person who's in charge of his personal security, he asked the team of Benjamin Netanyahu not to authorize Benjamin Netanyahu moving from anywhere to another place unless they receive explicit authorization, direct authorization from him. Imagine that. And some people are acting as if it's not a threat, and it's like all a show. And with Iran, this defeated mentality, this defeated ignorant mentality. And you have all of that, and you're talking about a ghost state now in the streets. And this is what I want to share with you. Let me open the space up for all of you for your participation. And again, thank you so much, Daniela, Modus Cutter, for your super, and Nicholas Cameron as well. Thank you so much for your super and for your kind contribution. If anyone has a comment for me, if you wouldn't mind highlighting it, just so that we won't miss as least as possible, really. From the chat. And Bizzer, thank you so much. I'm not going to read that, but thank you. Okay. Mona Salah saying they have not learned from their past. Obviously, they've never learned from their past. But if they wanted to learn from their past, they would have ended it there and then. We wouldn't have been here. 7th of October. Being clear with you, what the hell is happening? And again, we said, if you had the concept of equality between the Jordan River to the sea, we wouldn't have been here. No one wouldn't have been talking. And imagine being run by a psychopathic lunatic. What are you going to do? It's even worse. You're not going to look at anything. You're not going to look at anything, and you're going to continue down the same path, the same failed recipe that hasn't worked all along, thinking that you can manage it. Why? Because they managed it for a period of time, managing the conflict. They used to call it campaign between campaigns, peace process, right? All talks. Clearly that exploded in their face now. Really, why are the Muslim countries against Iran? Well, when we say the Muslim countries, and like the video that I posted before, you're talking about the governments. You're talking about the official position of the government. Number one, it's a number of these governments. That's number one. It's a limited number of these governments. When you talk about the people, it's different. Many of these people have a problem with Iran for multiple reasons. Some of them have a problem with them for their policies. They fall into the Iranophobia that has been happening. Some of them have had direct feuds with them previously. Many of them follow orders from the countries who want them to have problems with Iran, to a level where Israel was talking about an alliance of Israel with some Arab states against Iran. And some countries are playing with it, and clearly some countries are playing ball to this date. And many countries are covering up their own failures and shameful positions by attacking Iran and calling it a show. Do you understand? They don't take a position, so they say everything that Iran is doing is a thing. Instead of being rational about it, and being to the matter, I can disagree with Iran's policy on one and so. I can disagree with this and that. However, on this matter, I think, no, they're right. Simple, you know. But many people are blind. Many people are blind. Many people are only have a sectarian view, a racist view. And again, these things blinden you. These things blinden you. Teshikoma, this is retaliated already. No, this is not a retaliation. What we saw so far is just a day-to-day retaliation of the day-to-day actions. It's not like the big response. No, that hasn't happened yet. That hasn't happened, and they are threatening, they're releasing things. It's very, very tense in Israel. A lot of things are dysfunctional in the country. Factories have been evacuated. Military bases have been evacuated. Many countries stopped their travel to Israel. The airports had cyber attacks in them. So you have a lot of problems. But this is just the day-to-day stuff. And the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, he said that what we're talking about and what you're about to see. What you're about to see in the next few days is not the response. And there's one thing that's really important here. What you're about to see is not the response, is already one of the highest levels of attacks. So 50 missiles a day, 60 missiles a day, you're talking about really, really large numbers. You're talking about really large numbers of missiles falling on Israel and causing more problems to the country. So no, that's not the full response yet. And Ms. Chiki, thank you so much for your super as well. And Real Sheikapia, he said Iran may, thank you so much, said Iran may try and assassinate Netanyahu. Well, yes, and the security, again, we're talking about security. Massive security ramped up with Netanyahu to protect him as much as possible. Like I said, his guards are telling him you can't move unless we receive an authorization from the head of the team protecting you. So you're talking about lots of problems. And Altaf Ismail, is Haniya's assassination a sign of Iranian intelligence failure? Well, there has been a failure. There has been a failure somewhere. And they need to get to the bottom of it, whether it's to do with the accommodation, how he was attacked, where did it come from exactly, who carried it out. Was there someone who said, every time you get attacked and infiltrated in your country, that's a failure. That's a failure that you need to learn from. And let's go to the next one. And there have been, by the way, many versions about what happened with the attack. Some people said, land to land. Some people said it was a drone. Some people used to say it was something hidden, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you have a lot of versions coming up, but again, they need to investigate it, and clearly there needs to be more security measures. They must take more security measures to protect themselves. However, again, this infiltration doesn't only happen in Iran, and doesn't only happen with these countries. It happens in Israel. It happens in the United States. It happens with all of these countries. How do missiles and drones infiltrate Israel on a daily basis without their knowledge? How? You have daily infiltration. Don't forget that. Because they try and talk only about the infiltration and the problem or failure when it comes to Iran. It's a failure. We have to admit it, and they have to deal with it. But don't forget the failures on a daily basis. Hezbollah are humiliating Israel on a day-to-day basis. Ansarullah humiliated them. Hamas humiliated them. Even when it comes to intelligence. The resistance used to send live messages on live Israeli television. Hamas once sent them an image. They put it on live Israeli television the night of Abu Ubaidah sending a message. Isn't that an infiltration? How did the Yemeni drone get into next to the US embassy in Tel Aviv and carried out its mission? How do Hezbollah carry out their attacks every day? All of that is an infiltration. And looking at it this way, the resistance fronts are infiltrating Israel way more than Israel is infiltrating them. Why? Because they are still active and they are successfully still conducting operations. And Gaza is the biggest example. They've been there for 10 months, yet they are unable to defeat the Palestinian resistance. They're unable to defeat them. Vivek Shanti, I thank you for your membership. You said, hi, Mahmoud, hope you're well. What is the purpose of leaking conversation between Biden, cursing Netanyahu, when at the end of the day, they still arm them and are protecting them? Thank you. And that's a very interesting observation. Well, because they still have differences between them. Me supporting you, as in the United States to Israel, doesn't mean I completely condone you and everything you do all the time, 24/7. And if you look at the shift in tone, at least the shift in tone, and again, you can not believe that, and you can cast doubt on it and dispute it, no problem. But the fact of the matter is, we have a shift in statements. We've had a shift in. Did you remember the statements in the first month? They were giving them a blank check to completely commit a genocide. Not that they're, again, not that they're not enabling what's happening now, and all of a sudden they became amazing people, right, and on the right side of history. No, but they still don't see eye to eye. There are certain things that they don't want and are not in line with their foreign policy at the moment, are not aligned with their priorities, and Benjamin Netanyahu is acting too independently of the United States, which Israel belongs to now. Israel is under the United States, and again, argue here who's dictating who. Okay, fine, no problem. But they're together. So they're not working in total harmony when it comes to Israel's actions, because Netanyahu is not acting with the will and by the will of the Israelis. Now imagine him with the US. If he's not representing the majority of Israelis, what would you think his position would be with the United States or with some of his closest allies in the world? That's why. And again, that doesn't mean they're not this, and that doesn't mean they're not coordinated, but there are things that are different. Like, don't forget history. 2 decades ago, and less than 2 decades ago, the United States used to always say, if Iran attacks Israel, we will destroy them. This is what it was. If Iran attacks Israel, we will destroy them. And they always used to use Israel as a barking poodle against Iran. At a certain period, you had daily headlines against Iran. Iran, nuclear threat, Iran, nuclear threat. It was the United States behind it too. Why? Because they were in Iraq, and Iran was expanding in Iraq, and they wanted to limit their capabilities, and they didn't want too much expansion, and that didn't work. Why? Because it didn't end as the United States wanted in Iraq. Even with the people who they hoped would, have a full-blown sectarian war for the next century, it didn't work. Even the people who were infighting changed their minds. They knew what was happening. So now they told them, we'll just defend you. And now it's saying, we won't defend you to the level we defended you before with Hezbollah. Right? So all of these things, it's important to review how the tone was before as well, to establish where we're at now. And infinite content, thank you so much for your super star, Brother Mahmoud. Do you know if Hezbollah has any sea power capability that could put the Israeli state in a trick bag? They have very high levels of sea power capability, and they can target lots of things. And there are analysts in Lebanon who claim that Hezbollah already have targets in the sea ready for action when ordered. They have land-to-sea missiles. They have drones that can go and attack in the sea, like Ansarullah. As a matter of fact, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the chief secretary, he said that we can cover all of the Mediterranean. And the man is truthful. He does what he says. And he has a history to the level where Israelis believe him more than they believe Netanyahu. Hell, the families of the prisoners, the Israeli families, they many times said, we believe the Hamas leaders more than we believe Netanyahu. And Vet said, who do you think will replace Ania and anything? Well, they will have many names. Musa Abu Marzouk is one of them, a senior figure from a very long time ago. Or Khalid Mish'al, who was previously already the head of the political bureau. Both of these names are popping up strongly, but we don't have a confirmation yet. And John Zientowski, thank you so much for your super. You said that Netanyahu does not realize that an angry man is defeated in battle as well in life. That is so true. That is so true. And the man has many problems. He has many problems at a personal level, a political level, and now with all of this. But he's behaving in a psychopathic manner, and he's dragging the whole country with him. He's dragging the whole country with him. He's ticking every single wrong button that he can tick. Every single button that you can think of, he's ticking it. Every bad decision Israel could have made since the 7th of October, they've made it. They've made it. And there are very strong indications that they had prior knowledge that an attack was coming, and they used it and spinned it and spread propaganda that was already prepared and packaged to use the 7th of October to carry out certain plans that they had from decades ago and contemporary financial plans, especially to do with the gas. They handed out gas exploration contracts 2.5 weeks after the 7th of October attacks. What does that tell you? 23rd or 24th of October. The biggest banks in Israel had stock changes and made immense profits with dodgy deals before the 7th of October, making hundreds of millions. What does all of that tell you? That they knew and they used it. Yet with all of that, they took all of the wrong decisions, maybe because they were too frustrated that the plan is not going to plan, right? It's not going to plan. The ethnic cleansing didn't work. They faced this problematic position from Egypt, not allowing to open the gate fully to allow an influx of Palestinians because they knew Israel wanted to ethnically cleanse them. Then certain measures that they took. All of these things are important, but still the same leader is still running the country. He's not being replaced. And they know if we want to take him down by force, we're going to face bigger problems. Why? Because you already have two sides who hate each other to death, who are heavily armed. You have divisions in the army, divisions in society. Talking about a nation that's armed in general, Israel. Everyone should be, it's a military state. Everyone should be reservist. And you have a Minister of National Security who was handing out machine guns and weapons for free for people, right? So, but he's still there. He's still there. And he's escalating. And one of the biggest questions is, to me, is how would Israel respond to what's going to come? Because many things would be based on that. Many things to do with how far this escalates will depend on how Israel responds to the big attack that's coming on it. And Kate's saying that the resistance managed to take Rafah crossing Netzarim. No, not yet. However, it's not like Israel's having fun. Every day they attack Netzarim with dozens of missiles, direct attacks. The other day they exploded the whole command base. Israel suffers a lot and they cover up a lot of what's happening. And likewise with Rafah. And we've been talking about how the resistance is beating them in Rafah and their command bases in Rafah and in the Philadelphia corridor. And we have Ryan, thank you so much for your super. You said, Mahmoud, do you think the US Army will get into Gaza or Lebanon and help Israel fight against Hamas or Hezbollah if Iran attacks? Thank you for that question. And thank you for your super. I think they're in a very difficult situation because you're talking about a state with a population that's not willing to fight for their nation because they know that they're being led by a psychopathic lunatic, and they are realizing that, and they have realized since the beginning, that this war is not a war for Israel. It's not a war for the Israeli prisoners, okay? This is a country that's selling itself as the safe haven for the Jewish people, that cherishes every Jewish life. And what the population are seeing, and that's why they've been in the streets, and there are thousands and hundreds of thousands in certain cases, what they've been seeing is neglect and the slaughter of their own population, the deliberate murder of their own people, the Hannibal Directive implemented en masse on the Israeli prisoners, the people being used as cannon fodder in a barbaric genocide. People fleeing the country, people refusing draft, 2,000 soldiers fleeing the war in the early days, thousands refusing to serve, if not tens of thousands wounded and killed and disabled, the Haredim refusing to serve, parents of people who are reservists ordering their children not to go and sending signatured letters with signatures to the government. We will not allow our children to be deployed again. People who are now, not just from now, but from before as well, refusing to serve based on their conscience because they refuse the war and genocide. And most people don't do that because that would lead to them being punished. Most people would try and get an exemption from the army for disability or mental illness. But some people in Israel, and again, I speak about them, they will say that, no, I'm not going because I'm against the Israeli war and genocide in Gaza and I refuse to take part. That's the bravest position, but again, the most costly position. Why? Because you're going to be in prison for a while. So if the American is seeing the Israeli population like that, and that's the word, and we haven't started about what they're doing. We haven't started about the depravity and barbarism and genocide and infanticide and destruction and the destruction of hospitals and houses and bakeries and schools and churches and mosques. We haven't gone there. You know the score. And the American who's sitting there in Texas and in California and New York looking at, saying, well, do you want me to fight for them? You want me to go and fight for them? Do you understand? They're not brainwashing the people the same. They have a rebellion from the army. What are we talking about? People are refusing from the United States Army. They're resigning, including people from the Jewish community in the army. So the army is infighting inside of Israel. What are you going to what are you going to protect? Come on, really? And many people realize that this whole military war thing, it's a cannon fodder game for the military industrial complex and the pharma cartel and the big bucks. They know that by then. Come on. Who are they fooling? Going to fight for what? The US national security in Israel? Come on. Come on, what kind of what national security are we talking about? More like for the protection of the oligarchic, militaristic oligarchy in the US. To go and support the militaristic oligarchy. And the brutal greed of those in power, killing people day and night for their own greed. And thank you for that, Ryan. And Kamran Mirza, thank you so much for that comment. Much appreciated, my friend. Thank you for your super. And Studio Rainer, thank you so much for your super. You said, this is Iran's plan in my eyes. Ask Israel to evacuate citizens. Israel won't because they want civilians to die. Iran backs up because they want attack an apartheid state hostaging citizens Israel. Thank you for the input. I would disagree with that. I think an attack is coming. An attack is coming from Iran. This is what I think. If it doesn't come, then say I was wrong. An attack is coming. I don't think they will not attack. They will be attacking, and the other movements will be attacking Israel. So every indication, everything that we're seeing so far, hints that they're going that way. And I was one of those people who thought in the beginning of the war, and when Iran spoke about retaliation against its commanders who were killed, top figures in the IRGC who were assassinated in Syria, that it wouldn't be Iran who would respond. I didn't think so, and I said that. And I made a mistake. I clearly was wrong. Iran retaliated. I did not expect that. I did not expect Iran to directly, and they did, in an unprecedented attack, a massive attack in Israel that is unprecedented, and they paralyzed the whole country at the time. And again, you will have people who will cast out and tell you, oh, it was coordinated that, and they knew, and they're monitoring. And don't you know anything about the military? How does the air defense systems work? They monitor the launch, right? They send a signal, radar detection, satellites. They can see animals walking in Iran. What are we talking about? There's satellites, they see stones. Wouldn't they see 300, 400, 500 missiles going out? Oh, look, they're telling them. Again, to cover up their shameful positions of what? Protecting Israel and protecting genocide. Sitting there, commenting. But so I think there will be a response. And if I'm wrong, you'll see if I'm wrong. So far, Iran surprised us to the opposite side. Like I said, I didn't think they would attack, and they ended up attacking. So now, by saying we will attack, and definitely, and from us, and the resistance, and all of that they won't attack? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And Marvin Vergus, thank you so much for your super. He said, no, if any churches pull support for Zionists, but there's a massive debate. And it's interesting that you're asking me now, because I was approached by a theologist, a Christian theologist from the United States, actually, that I might have a conversation with on my channel, to do with the Zionist infiltration of the church. You see, they infiltrate the church and these religious movements, and even in the Muslim world as well, to legitimize themselves and their existence. And many Christians to this day believe in this whole chosen people of hell thing. They believe in God, chosen people of God. They're the chosen people of hell. The chosen people of hell. And they believe in that. But some people are changing their minds. There are certain debates in Christian churches. There are churches and priests and people who are very much openly against, but there are still people who are manipulated and fooled by their religious establishment. And again, that's across the board. You'll see this Zionism in some of the Muslim scholars as well, telling they own the land, and what the hell are you talking about? And that was from Marvin Vergus and Lynn Faulkner. Thank you so much for your super, much appreciated. And Alok Di Kabir saying, Mahmoud, can Hezbollah and Iran continue if they choose to retaliate or keep going in medium aggression? Can they handle a full-blown war? Listen what I think. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a big response. If that big response happens and Israel swallows it, they might go back to the de-escalation. However, we've got two messages that can be interpreted in a different manner. When it comes to who? When it comes to the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. His first message was, everything will depend on how you react to our attack. Everything will depend on how you react to our retaliation. That was part of his speech. The second thing that he said is that we entered a new open phase of a large-scale war. Okay. Are these two contradicting or not? They could not be contradicting. And again, he could be sending things to confuse them, he plays on their head. They have a problem with him, by the way. We're seeing a phase of more escalation. So 50 missiles a day, 50 missiles a day regularly on. Sometimes they used to have like 10, 11, some days without anything. Now there's like a standard. But that's not the response. However, if they go, all of them, and all of a sudden, that's it, attack Israel, and Israel bites the bullet. Okay, we might see a de-escalation. Is Israel likely to do that? Of course not. Of course not. They wouldn't want to bite the bullet. They wouldn't. Why? Because they will be setting a new precedent. You see, there are many precedents being set here. Everyone needs to know that. New equations every day, and everyone is fighting. What's the equation? Like Hezbollah's equation now, that's unprecedented. What's the equation? All of the problems are in Israel, not in Lebanon. There are some problems in Lebanon, but the mass evacuation, record numbers of 70 years, millions fleeing Israel. Kiryat Shmone, a town that consists of 24,000 residents, only has 3,000 left, according to recent reports. The whole of the north is empty from these settlements close to Lebanon because of Hezbollah. You're setting a new thing. And they're still committing these barbaric attacks. Otherwise, why would they go and commit these reckless, brutal assassinations, knowing that the resistance will have to respond with such high-profile attacks? So what are they going to do afterwards? Are they going to swallow it? I doubt so. I doubt that they're going to swallow it, Israel. If we see a massive, unless it's, and again, if you can say, you can argue that unless they cover it, but again, how are they going to cover it? Like the previous attack, we had this live stream during the attack from Iran where I was posting the live videos that were coming from the citizens in Israel. You can't deny that. You have an option not to post it on mainstream media, but you can't stop the people from recording. So a lot of it depends on how Israel responds, to this attack that is inevitably coming. And the Studio Rainer, thank you so much. We said Iran will attack civilians. The only attack they struck, maybe their port. They have civilians there too. I can only see Israel even adding to the attack. In silence, more civilians' deaths. Yes, they could. They could be attacking civilians. And Hezbollah could be attacking civilians as well. And Leslie Dickinson, thank you so much for your super as well. Much appreciated. And Tech Arc, there will be a response from Iran. Question, will they attack high-value targets? Yes, in my opinion, they will be attacking high-value targets. And Israel's already preparing for these high-value targets. All of their sensitive places in Israel, they made changes in them. Again, sensitive factories evacuated, ammonia and chemicals in certain locations. They're taking measures to counter that. Bases evacuated completely. They already prepared satellite mobile phones for their ministers because they believe there will be an attack on their telecommunication system and electricity and water. So they're connecting them probably with Musk is helping them with something, probably, right? He was clapping for Netanyahu, Musk, right? Maybe he's helping the Israeli ministers with something. And P. Atlantis, thank you so much for your super. And Mama God is saying, what is keeping them from wiping out that whole state? I believe they are Jews from the book of the Revelations. I actually did read the Bible. Well, many things are preventing them, There's not many things. We're very close to having something all out, but each country and each movement will deal with the things based on their situation. We're sitting analyzing what we're seeing, but they are the people who are engaged, and they will do what's suitable for them. They will do what's suitable for them at the time that suits them as well. And mind over matter. Hi, Mahmoud. If Israel agreed to a ceasefire tomorrow, pressure from the United States, do you think Iran would still avenge the Hamas leader? Yes, I think so. I think so. Because there are things that Israel would have to pay the price for according to Iran and Hezbollah, and it doesn't work on Israel's conditions, I think they will still attack them. If they do, you're talking about sovereignty issue, you're talking about a security, a national security issue, you're talking about an honor issue, you're talking about a guest with you issue. Some people don't understand these concepts, but these are very important to the Iranian people. You're talking about a nation of people with morals, with values, who respect their values, and they see that and they take it seriously, and they will be responding for it. And let's go to the next one. Studio Rainer again, thank you. You're saying, could any regional power de-escalate the situation? Turkey, a direct nuclear attack threat. Do you see a nation region capable of de-escalating both sides? You would have to be a nation with some sort of a magic trick. So far, we've had the Iranian government. They said they had 2 conversations in a short amount of time with Jordan and Egypt. Because Jordan and Egypt were the named countries that were supposedly going to have some sort of interception and protecting Israel. Clearly, they're talking between them, seeing what they could do. There is a lot of talk and pressure from countries. I don't think that a country has a magic trick. If a country had a magic trick, it would have been the US. They would have the magic trick, wouldn't they? Why? Well, because they are the biggest patrons of Israel. They're the biggest supporters. They don't have the magic trick. And it's frustrating the establishment in the United States, regardless of Zionist infiltration and Israeli lobby, and it's frustrating them. Previously, when a US president used to apply pressure on an Israeli prime minister, they would stop. And people in Israel realized that. They realized the balance. Netanyahu's breaking the balance. There are things that you see, there are things that you don't see. But many people in Israel, in the establishment, Israeli journalists, they talk about the sensitive relationship between the Israeli prime minister and the United States president. You have a level of approval, but most of your support comes from us. So if we ask you to do something, stop it. To a level where a report in Israel, an inquiry in 2006 about the failure of the war with Lebanon, there was an inquiry that concluded that Israel failed against Hezbollah. They said we didn't know what was happening, and many people at the time used to say that, analysts and people who were included in the army, orders were received from the United States. Because again, the United States at the time were using the Israeli war in Lebanon as leverage against Iran. So Netanyahu is breaking that balance. He's breaking that balance. He's disrespecting everyone, including the hand that feeds him. And I don't think anyone has the magic trick. Plus, what would they have on the people who would want to do it? Or did they show them something good? Did they support them with something? They constantly criticize them. They constantly criticize them. They constantly swear at them. They constantly spew venom at them and follow the US administration and even Zionist rhetoric when it comes to Iran. So who's going to have leverage? If the US doesn't have leverage on Israel, who's going to have leverage? Kate is saying Mahmoud has just targeted Beit Hillel. Do you have a map location? So the settlement, why has chose this settlement? Let me see. Did they attack them? Yeah, Beit Hillel. You're right. Okay. Let me have a look here. So we have this. Okay. All right. We have this report that's coming from the Times of Israel. The Times of Israel are saying that Hezbollah says that it launched dozens of Katyusha missiles at Israel. Moshav Bet Hillel, Kfar Gila in Lebanon, many of the projectiles part of Iron Dome systems. Okay. Let me have a look. Well, they've been increasing the reach. They have been increasing the reach, and Beit Hillel is, let me show you. It's here. Let's open it up on so here we go. You can see it here. It's this area close to Kiryat Shmone. Kiryat Shmone is one of the biggest settlements here. These are the Lebanese borders. So Hezbollah attack from all of these areas to. So it's not too far in. But they're like, we're expanding. we're going deeper in. But yeah, over 50 missiles they launched. So you're talking about significant numbers of attacks that they're carrying out. And this is supposedly like the day-to-day stuff. Oh, the Maori Muslim. Assalam Mahmoud, alaikum salam. With all the madness, paranoia, missing persons, it always makes you wonder some of the satanic cult of Israel are practicing cannibalism. They prove to be depraved enough. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, dude, someone who commits these levels of depravity, you've reached the lowest of the low. I wouldn't be surprised of anything. They've committed so many things that are beyond comprehension, beyond human and mind comprehension. And I wouldn't be surprised. There are already so many missing children, thousands of missing children, thousands of missing people, mass graves. The mass graves that they found in Al-Shifa hospital, many of them were decapitated, and some of the bodies were missing and parts missing. People coming back with operations, stealing organs. Deep diver, do you think Bibi has come think to blackmail all US congressmen. That's why they are so weak. Like the Jeffrey Epstein case. Blackmailing, undeniably, Israel blackmails people. Israel offers people free visits, cushy stuff, and many people who visited Israel spoke about that, how they treat them when they're there, they welcome them, they manipulate them. As a matter of fact, it was Jake Shields who spoke about someone forcing him in the IDF to kind of trying to force him to have sex with an underage girl. Let me see if I have that video. I'll share it with you actually. Just 1 second. I think he has it on. Yeah, let's wait one. Let me just have a look. Make sure that's the video. Yeah, I found it. Listen. Look at that.
I've been to Israel. I think you know, but I've been to Israel. I went there. I was told, oh, how great it is. You know, they took me around, showed me all these great places, did jujitsu, went and worked out with the IDF, took me to a party where I think they tried to blackmail me, tried to get me to wear a little hat. You know, they bring you around, show you a good time. Because this is something they've been doing forever. Yeah, like I said, I think they're trying to do some weird shit to me when I was in Israel. So it's like,
go hang out with this chick over there. She's like,
right. 14 like, oh, this girl wants to sleep with you. I'm just like, that's just weird. They're trying to push a girl to sleep with you, and then they go in that room and do it. She's a
go in the room with the cameras that are hidden. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, thankfully I was smart enough to say no. But that just popped in my head a couple weeks ago. Because remember there was this, you know, I'm at this party and then they throw this girl in my lap, but it didn't like feel like the regular like fan situation, because I know fans. I've been being a fighter, girls will come and sleep with you, but like they more know who you are and stuff. And it was like, oh, this girl's a big fan, she wants to sleep with you. I'm kind of like, she's attractive too, but looked a little young. But they said like 19 or something. I'm just like, I don't like people trying to pressure me or anything sexual. And I was like, nah, it's good. But they were like so pushy about it. It was like really
get
weird.
In that room, but there's no cameras, man.
Yeah, it's so weird that came to me, and I'm like, I remember the time it just felt really weird. It didn't feel nothing natural about it, and I hated when people try to pressure me to do anything sexually. So I'm just like, no, and I left. But like, imagine if it did go back there and then she wasn't of age.
You wouldn't be here talking.
I would be I could be like Jordan Peterson right now. Give them hell.
Yeah, give them hell. Israel. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many of these influencers have black. They all go to Israel. Everyone takes an Israel trip. Every politician. You know, a lot of men's weakness is women. They probably throw some girl. They get them all makeup. Get them a little older. Hey, go in that room.
Now you're on camera. Oh, you know, she was 14, right? You better sign this bill here. There you go. Jerusalem's descent. Okay.
So that's that's the blackmailing. Here you go. And that's just one example. Now imagine when you talk about people in politics. Imagine when you talk about people in politics. Imagine you have people who this actually worked with, right? Imagine bribery and threats, all of that. So there's nothing surprising there. Really, nothing is surprising. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised. Carolyn Daigle, thank you so much for your super. So thank you for turning the lights on. The education just keeps ongoing. Keep doing what you do. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, and will do. Thank you so much for your contribution. So yeah, they've been doing that for a very long time, and imagine these people clapping. I wonder how many of them were caught in dark rooms with girls, right? How many of them fell for it? Thankfully, we have people who come and reveal that You know what I mean? Thankfully, we have people coming and reveal that. And it doesn't work with everyone. But what does that tell you? That tells you very scary stuff. That you have a network of human traffickers sitting in government, raping children, abusing them, and probably killing them after they get it over and done with, so they don't have another Epstein case. And all of a sudden they disappear. All of a sudden they disappear. And let's see if we have anything else before we wrap up. No, yeah, we'll wrap it up there then. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. Thank you to all of the members, subscribers, viewers, everyone who participated. I'm sorry if I missed some of your comments. Just live usually miss some things, but I appreciate all of your input so much. Thank you to everyone who participated, who viewed. Thank you to the new subscribers, new members. And thank you so much to everyone who sent supers. Much appreciated. I actually have one more here. OHA25, there have been, thank you for super said, there have been more than 100 flights from Russia have delivered weapons to Iran. Do you think Iran is going to fight a serious war? Well, Russia the other day, and I spoke about that, they said it looks like Medvedev, it looks like a full-scale war is the only solution for a fragile peace in the Middle East. What does that hint? That we're there. And likewise, they will have to help Iran, like the Iran helped them. So, and they know that when it reaches the big state level, they have to participate. It's big players now. This is how China and Russia look at it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Russia helped them with lots of stuff, secretly. And I think Iran is ready for a very serious war. All of the indications show that they're preparing for a large-scale attack, preparing for a very big war. And if they are under threat, that means Russian and Chinese participation, but firstly Russian participation. And Oha, thank you again for your super, much appreciated. Thank you so much, everyone else, for all of your participation. Let me just open the other live so I can make sure to thank everyone who participated and supported in the super chat. We had everyone from Daniela Modescutter, thank you so much for your dedication and for your continued support. Nicholas Cameron, Bizer, Miss Chicky, Real Shakapia, Infinite Content, John Zintowski, Ryan 8078, Cameron Mirza, Studio Rainer, Marvin Vergas, Lynn Faulkner, Studio Rainer, thank you for your generosity, my friend. Leslie Dickinson, Mama Got It, Studio Rainer, thank you so much. Again, Carolyn Daigle, and OHA25, thank you all for your kind and generous contribution and support. And thanks to everyone else for your participation and your input. Even if I haven't reached it, I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who was viewing us from all across the world, Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. Thank you so much for your participation. Apart from that, I have a couple of videos that I published, and you can go ahead and watch them. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay blessed. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, or afternoon, depending on where you are. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone.